Hi, and welcome back to another episode of SEO On-Air. I'm your host, Aaron, and today we have Rachel Tinker, Manager of SEO Services at Blue Corona. We talk about local SEO, Google's search generative experience, and if ChatGPT is the future of SEO. I hope you enjoy this episode. I think before getting into SEO, you were actually in content before that. So could you tell
Yes.
us a
Yeah,
bit about your history before getting into SEO?
absolutely. I started knowing I wanted to go into digital marketing. I love digital marketing. And I thought kind of the only and natural foray into that was content. I didn't honestly really know much about SEO or really any other digital marketing strategies aside from like knowing they existed. So I started in the content space, largely focused on local businesses, but dabbled in some of the other things as I started and really realized how much SEO and content are intertwined, and also how much I loved the more data driven side that SEO provided. So I kind of was able to pivot my career into SEO and have been in SEO ever since.
But when you kind of got into the SEO side of things, was there like a moment where you were like, "This is it. This is what I'm going to do," or were you kind of in between thoughts between when making that shift?
That's a great question. I honestly feel like I almost had that thought before I fully pivoted into SEO. I was lucky enough that my content role that I was in was largely kind of like SEO and content and social and kind of very well rounded, but it wasn't a full SEO role. And so I knew I wanted to do SEO compared to content. But I think once I started in SEO and I really feel like I hit a groove, I really feel like I found my passion with it, that's when I feel like I knew I'm like, oh, this can be like a career, not just a job, and something that I want to pursue long term, which was really an awesome feeling.
And this is when you were already at Blue Corona, right?
Correct. Yes. So I've been at Blue Corona for 5 years now. I started in content and moved into our SEO department, and I've kind of worked my way up. And I have been managing our team of SEO specialists and SEO analysts, kind of overseeing our SEO department for 2 years now.
Could you tell us a bit more about Blue Corona, what exactly they offer, and who they aim to help?
Of course. Blue Corona is a digital marketing agency. We're largely focused on home service businesses. So that could be HVAC contractors, plumbers, electricians, remodelers, anything that basically serves you in your home. And the biggest thing that really sets Blue Corona apart is that our strategies are really rooted in tracking everything that we do. We really want to be able to connect our strategies to our client's bottom line, and also be able to drive additional results based on the data that we track. So we believe in kind of tracking all of our strategies, SEO, pay per click, email marketing, all of it, so that we can kind of continue to drive really great success for our clients.
In terms of, let's say, SEO, would you be able to let's say give us a full breakdown of how to, let's say, do local SEO for a business? Because I was thinking I can give you like an agency as an example, and we can use that agency going forward as a
Sure,
hypothetical.
of course. Local SEO is something that I can talk about for hours. I absolutely adore local SEO. It's obviously kind of where I got my start. Um, I think there's a lot of different aspects that you can focus on when it comes to local SEO, but I think the biggest opportunity is the local pack for a lot of businesses and Google Business Profile. So when it comes to Google Business Profile, I think that there's a ton of very specific things that you can focus on. But aside from Google Business Profile first, I think that when you look at local um, services, local businesses, you want to be targeting your local service area. So creating unique local service area pages that target users in those specific cities that you serve is really big. Those pages can like discuss your services, try to tie in local elements because you want to make sure they're unique, but also, precise to the cities that you're in, so that Google and other search engines kind of get that additional localized context. Um, I find that those like having those local service area pages also really helps support efforts in the local pack and with Google Business Profile because you can use them as landing pages and all of that. And I think as I mentioned before, claiming your Google business profile and just optimizing available fields wherever possible. Plus partnering those service area pages as landing pages is really important. And then making sure that you have sufficient internal linking and everything to those service area pages throughout your website as well seems to also help boost not only your performance on your website.
So if you kind of take the example of a plumbing business, let's say, if I am that local business trying to boost my rankings, you kind of give the answer to this, but I'm trying to, let's say, now put it with the spin of a plumbing business. How can I get my organic search rankings higher while also trying to make sure that I list on the local path?
Of course, I think that it is that balance. So focusing largely, probably more of your time will go towards content on a website. So I would create, local pages that focus on the plumbing services that you offer, but then also making sure that your website is in good shape and actually reflects all of the services you offer kind of in your top level navigation as well. Not making sure you're not forgetting about user experience along the way. But when it comes to the Google business profile, there are some factors that I think are really important for those local services. And so for like plumbers, especially, making sure that that primary category in your Google business profile is accurate is really important. So making sure in the case of a plumber that you're using probably the plumber category. But then you're also adding any secondary relevant categories to your Google business profile as well. So those might be, additional services that you offer. There's dozens, hundreds of Google business profile categories. You want to make sure that they're accurate. But if you're offering additional services or you're, a plumbing company that also offers HVAC, that you're adding those additional categories. The hardest part to control when you're a plumber, an HVAC business, or really any local business is the proximity to where your searcher is. So that has to do with where your office is, of course. You can't move your office around all the time. And so that is one thing that kind of does restrain that local result. But ideally, if you're picking a place for your office, you want to pick something as central to your service area as possible, so that you can be as close with that proximity factor as possible. I think reviews are huge as well. Getting reviews from your customers, asking for those reviews after the plumbers have performed their services, making sure that you're kind of getting that steady stream of reviews, ideally, with 5 stars, of course, but also with context in those reviews, because I think that will continue to become more and more important, having that actual text in those reviews. And then making sure that you reflect all of your services on your Google business profile in addition to your website. So it's kind of recently been studied and found by a couple of different agencies that your service list on Google business profile has an impact on your ranking. And we've seen that here at Blue Corona as well, is that as we add and optimize those service lists on Google business profile, we actually do see results, changes in results and improvements in rankings. So making sure that you're listing out all of those services you offer. So not just saying I'm a plumber, but saying I offer drain cleaning, we repair water heaters, we replace water heaters, we offer water treatment services, anything like that. Listing all of those out is how you are going to continually make sure that you appear for as many of those keywords as possible in the local pack, in addition to then having that content as well on your website. So yeah, I think that overall, that completion of your Google business profile is a huge step in any local business, especially for businesses that serve customers at their homes, like plumbers. So making sure that that service area is
in the same kind of in the same vein. If those are the things that you should definitely do when creating a Google business profile, what are some things that you should definitely not do when creating a profile?
That's honestly probably even a more relevant question. I love that, because I think I see so often people that step in the wrong direction with Google business profile. A lot of that has to do with spam. So don't keyword stuff your business name. I know it can seem like sometimes Google is rewarding those keyword stuffed business names, but instead it's a lot better to try to spam fight and report or, suggest edits to those businesses rather than kind of sinking to that level yourself, because it just makes you a lot more likely to get suspended. And so in addition to like keyword stuffing, I think that, you should absolutely not use any sort of like PO box or UPS store or anything as your physical location. You should definitely be either have a physical location or list yourself as a service area business if you don't have what Google classifies as a storefront. Uh, that it definitely opens you up for suspensions if you try to use residential addresses or PO boxes. Trying to list multiple businesses from the same location that don't have their own unique business areas, offices, all of that. I'm trying to think if there's any others. I mean, there's tons of them, really. But I think that those are all big ones in terms of what not to do. Basically, anything that's kind of spammy or violates Google's guidelines is like the big no-go, because not only is it probably not going to work in the long run, it probably will lead to the suspension of your profile, which is honestly just not very fun to have to deal with. So I recommend trying to avoid those issues whenever possible.
So to kind of jump back into the plumbing business and local search, let's say my plumbing business has now kind of expanded. We are, just for the sake of it, we are called Mario and Luigi Plumbing, and we want to now open a franchise around America. So for that kind of business that's franchise based, is there a way or is there a different technique used to kind of enhance visibility?
That's a great question too. I think that, when it comes to Mario and Luigi Plumbing, it really depends on how you have your website set up first. Do you have one main website that kind of has sub-sites, or are each of your franchise locations going to have separate websites? Either way, you should be building out unique content. I think, again, those localized service pages or service area pages, depending on how your site is set up, is going to be super important. Targeting whatever area those franchises of Mario and Luigi are targeting, making sure that you're appearing there. I think localized blog content is another really great option on websites so that you're appearing for both long tail keywords as well as local queries. Investing in that both on, like a national level as well as that franchisee level is really important. As Mario and Luigi grows, and as you gain customers in each location, getting those testimonials and reviews for each of those locations is going to be really important, not only on your Google business profile, but having those on your website too. I think that they're really great ways to build that sense of trust with customers on your website. Employing some technical SEO, things like structured data markup, is going to be really important to kind of distinguish between each of the business locations and the franchises that you have, what areas you serve. Local business schema is really great for that. There's even a subtype of that for plumbers that would be perfect for Mario and Luigi Plumbing. But I think at the end of the day, the thing that is most important to remember when you're dealing with franchises is consistency. So consistency of branding, naming conventions, structure of name, address, phone number, or NAP listings from location to location is going to be really important. Making sure that you build, citation for those locations, directory listings from each of the franchise locations. And each of those franchise locations and those directories should link to either those separate websites or those separate kind of sub sites or domains pages that are for each of those locations, so that any user that's clicking on that particular citation is going to be brought to the most relevant page for that particular franchise location as possible. And I think that also can really help you, continue to track your profiles as well, so that you can see where that traffic is coming from on each level, rather than saying, oh, all Mario and Luigi locations, all of your citations, your Google business profiles should all just link to marioandluigiplumbing.com. Then you aren't going to be able to deliver the best experience for users when they come across those citations and directories, because then they have to dig through your website just to find out that, yes, we actually do serve your area, and here's how to contact your local Mario and Luigi Plumbing. So I really recommend kind of trying to make sure that you have a solid representation of your business online on your website, but also making sure that your representation on the local pack and in citations is really consistent as well.
I think I have to kind of bill Mario and Luigi for that in-depth lesson right there, because I feel like this incorporating that can do a huge amount for your business. I think one of the articles that you had written mentioned the 3 pillars of success for SEO. And while discussing that, you kind of mentioned all 3 as well. So I want to know, what is the importance of, let's say, site structure, on-site content, and let's say off-site factors as well?
Yeah, I like to think of it honestly like a hierarchy for SEO success. Without proper technical SEO and site structure, Google and other search engines aren't going to be able to crawl or index your website. So, no matter how great your content is, there's no purpose in, really having all that content if it can't be found by search engines. So that's kind of that base of that hierarchy or that pyramid. Then, of course, Google has to have actual content to crawl and index once it can crawl and index your site. So I think having that quality content is really important. So at the end of the day, Google ranks web pages, not websites. So making sure that you have robust, built out content that fully and properly kind of reflects all of your services is going to be really important. And I think that's kind of that middle of that hierarchy. Then that offsite factors, citations, directories, reviews, all of those kinds of things is going to build that stronger brand presence and sense of authority of your site, as well as brand recognition. Plus, it's going to help you generate some backlinks to your site as well, to that content. And so all of those things are what's going to kind of help really support that effort and continue to kind of increase all of that. Now, when it comes to building franchises or really any business, when it comes to local businesses, sometimes citations and directories are the easiest place to start. And so you might even see those as a foundation. And that's okay. But I think it is important to remember that from a technical and site structure perspective, you should make sure that's unlocked before you really invest a ton in content, or that content isn't going to be able to provide value. And oftentimes, those citations and directories aren't going to provide a ton of value until you really have some solid content to link to from those. So that's why I kind of think of it as the top. But I think it's kind of a legitimate approach to either start or end with those as well.
So when creating an SEO campaign, apart from, let's say, the 3 factors we mentioned before, is there a way to kind of make sure that you are having a long-term strategy, or at least seeing long-term results?
Absolutely. I think that it does go back to one of the pillars that we mentioned before, and that's content, but specifically focus really on quality of content. So having that high quality content, I think, is what's going to make your SEO efforts the most sustainable, because it's a lot better to invest in that content up front, make really high quality content that then becomes hopefully evergreen and can build on itself over time, rather than maybe investing in just like, oh, I'm going to throw all of this into AI, not even look at it, just build a whole website real quick. So you're probably not going to see the same results. Google's helpful content updates, I think, have really reinforced that whole human first content with their double EAT, which is experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. Trust is kind of the center of that. So, whether it be through your content or anything that you're really creating, establishing yourself as an authority, but also, a trustworthy source for that information is really important. And I think how Google is going to continue to rank you more and build on that more is if they see you as trustworthy and if users see you as trustworthy. The goal of SEO is not only to rank higher and higher in, search engine results, but hopefully to kind of capture users at all portions of that sales funnel, from kind of information seeking to actually looking to convert. And so when you successfully capture users that are really high up in the sales funnel, maybe with like blog posts or things that are providing just information, you hopefully are building more brand recognition and trust with those users as well. And that hopefully ultimately means that as your SEO builds and over time, those same users kind of progress down that sales funnel towards sale when they're ready for it, because they've seen you and referenced you before when it comes to that quality content at all portions of the sales kind of experience.
If I did have, let's say, a piece that I haven't updated in a couple of years, But I know that the article at one point in time was a really good article. Is it okay to just change the meta, let's say, details of it, just the date probably, or
I mean,
should I actually be
sure.
adding value?
So I believe like there's no penalty you're going to get from updating just the date. However, if you are only updating the date, I don't think you're going to see the benefits you're looking for either. I think the biggest benefits are going to come from actually updating at least some of the content. It can be small tweaks, keywords throughout, maybe adding a small section or rewriting a small section, adding a section of frequently asked questions, anything like that. In addition to updating that published date can definitely help. But updating the date alone isn't going to necessarily, I think, do the same thing for Google and for search engines that maybe we would hope it would. If it were that easy, then we'd all just change the published dates every day on every page on a website. But that alone won't quite get you there. But I think it doesn't have to be complete overhauls of content either to be effective as kind of those refreshes.
Yeah, you don't have to redo the entire piece of content. Just maybe add a few sentences here and that could probably help out.
Yeah.
The reason I asked the question was because we had someone else also on the show kind of talk about how when they did an analysis by merely changing just the date, they were able to see an increase in traffic. It wasn't, again, like you mentioned, it wasn't a significant amount, but by that small change, just by tricking Google into thinking this is newly published content, it kind of gave them a boost in traffic. So I
Yeah,
was
I
wondering
mean, I
what would be
believe
the
it.
ethical side of that.
Yeah, I try to be as ethical with SEO and kind of as white hat as possible. So I don't try to think about things in terms of tricking Google much. However, I would believe that updating those dates could definitely at least send those signals of, hey, Google, can you look at this page and kind of recrawl it, re-index it again. So I definitely would believe that. And I'm sure you're not gonna see any penalties or harm from that I'm aware of. But I don't think that the boost that you would see from that versus investing, an additional maybe 15 minutes into optimizing that page, I think the boost you're going to see from that is a lot more significant.
Right. It's more of like a short way out, but if you want to see those long-term results, you got to put in that extra 15 minutes.
Absolutely. We want those things that build on each other and create sustainable long-term success. That low-hanging fruit is awesome, but it isn't going to necessarily always take you to long-term results.
So in pretty much everything that we have talked about, I believe somewhere or another AI can play a role. So before I get into, let's say, the more specifics about AI, could you just give us a hint on where exactly has AI helped you in terms of SEO local search?
Of course. AI is something I'm still exploring a lot. I think that AI tools like ChatGPT can be great tools for ideation, keyword research, blog topic ideas. I think it's fabulous for coming up with titles for blog topics because I know that's not an area I feel like I'm as great at. Um, but I also think that there is a certain amount of quality that comes from content written by humans that isn't easily recreated, at least to that level. So I don't think that ChatGPT or AI is going to um, replace my efforts in content, at least, but I do know, plenty of other SEOs are experimenting with it to fully create content, and that's great. I think, though, that it can be used unwisely. I think that if you are going to use AI to create content, you still need to have some sort of human touch. At least some look at editing that content, making sure that it makes sense, that it is trustworthy, that it is authoritative. Because I also see all of these ChatGPT horror stories of it's spitting out information because it is a language model, not a knowledge model, that it's spitting out information, but it's not actually accurate information. So that content should always be edited and reviewed by a human to make sure it makes sense, that it's accurate, that it is achieving the end goal. But I think that AI is honestly just going to continue to enhance our ability to deliver really awesome content at the same time because of all of those like ideation opportunities, keyword research. If it can kind of help cut down on some of the time there, then that just to me is more time that you can spend creating, really solid strategies, really improving existing content, all of those things. I know I've also started experimenting with using AI for image alt text generation so that, making sure that we have accurate image alt text that sites are accessible, all of that. In some great ways it's great, but in others it fails miserably still. It is a newer thing. Working in the HVAC industry, there's a lot of just machines, and AI can't always distinguish between a furnace and a boiler and an air conditioner, and a heat
Right.
pump. And so those things are still very much going to be things that we have to do ourselves and do manually, and that's great. But I think over time AI is going to continue to evolve to where we can definitely use it more and more as a supportive tool. But I, at least personally, still plan to try to be as human first as possible when it comes to my SEO practices.
Can you also maybe, let's say, use ChatGPT or another AI tool to also help with Google business profiles?
There are definitely ways that you can use AI to help with Google Business Profile. It's interesting. I wouldn't go to AI to ask for Google Business Profile advice. I will say that because I've found that because at least ChatGPT, it seems like their knowledge base kind of cuts off at 2021. A lot of their recommendations of Google Business Profile strategies are a bit outdated. But when it comes to thinking about generating business descriptions, maybe writing Google posts. If you don't have someone that can help support that, having it spit out a bunch of Google posts and then editing and making sure that those are accurate, or giving it content. Here's the blog topics I have. Can you write posts about those blog topics? Potentially writing like service descriptions, that service list that I mentioned earlier that is been shown lately to be a ranking factor, has the opportunity to add descriptions to it. And that could be a lot of writing for someone. So, utilizing ChatGPT to kind of be supportive there. And a couple other things, I think, like product descriptions, all of those things could definitely be useful. And of course, I think that there's potentially opportunities for review responses. If you are receiving a lot of reviews and you want to be responding to those reviews and engaging, but it's going to take a long time to write all of those, ChatGPT can either help you come up with templates for those review responses, or maybe even look at the response and review and come up with a response for it. But again, always double check all of these things. Make sure you are editing it yourself before you're publishing it, just because, it can be a little nonsensical sometimes if you don't take a closer look. So
how do we as SEO professionals kind of get to go beyond Google and make sure our content gets, showcased? If there are going to be, let's say, an increase in zero-click searches, how do we get to that one click?
That's a great question. It's really hard to know too how much variety Google is going to have in the answers that it provides. If I ask the same question 3 different times, is it going to provide different answers, the same answers? Is it going to be something we can easily optimize for to rank in the search generative experience? If people are clicking on that toggle deeper and we find, maybe it can be worth trying to target those things. But because it's still on the wait list, it's still kind of unknown how we'll track those things. But in terms of getting that one click, I mean, it really emphasizes just how important it is to get to those top 3 positions, those, as high in organic search as possible. It's already known today that so much of, click-through rate happens within those first top 3 results. And now it's like, it wouldn't surprise me if that click-through rate, goes up even higher in terms of the top 3 results, because people, by the time you reach the top 3, you're already quite far down the page after that search generative experience. So I am very curious what it will look like. I think that in terms of how we rank there, and because people will be searching a little more specific, I think that trying to go after those kind of like extra long tail keywords, lots of long tail keywords, being very conversational in content, making sure you're writing how people speak, and trying to think about kind of like frequently asked questions. Some of those people also ask questions on search. Thinking about those kinds of things, and how you can make sure you preemptively answer those in your content so that hopefully as well you're relevant to whatever people are still searching when they are starting to search those extra long tail keywords and more specific things. I think is going to be the main.
What do you see the future of SEO turning out to be?
That's a big one. I
That's why I
think
was
the
asking if you
future
have
of
time.
SEO is going to be a lot of balancing, content generation with probably blogs, answering those, questions, making sure that you're solving those things. And I think honestly, when it comes to local businesses, leaning into local SEO even more, really focusing on Google Business Profile. I think that is going to present more opportunities in the search generative experience because it's pulling from Google Business Profile and the information's a little more straightforward. So hopefully that is something that can be even more targeted. So making sure that that is addressed, I think, is going to be essential. But what it will really look like, I think that's going to honestly evolve week by week at this point in terms of what SEOs think the future of SEO will look like. But I think the biggest focus is making sure that we can continue to evolve with it. Really absorb what SGE is doing now in the test phases and kind of start deploying those thoughts into SEO strategies now.
Do you think any SEO profession has anything to worry about? Or with the future of, let's say, AI and how the internet works, we should be fine. And as long as we continue with our basics, which are, being at least a bit more human oriented instead of trying to work it for the robots. Is there anything to basically worry about?
Worry about? No. I don't think so. I think that there's some questions that I have that are unanswered that I naturally am a little worried about. But in terms of like the SEO profession, I don't think there's anything to worry about. However, I think you do need to be able to be ready to embrace change. I think that's the biggest thing that we're going to face with this. My biggest question mark, my personal biggest worry, is more just how are we going to track this? Nowadays we have so much insight into what users are searching, what we're appearing for, all of those things that when we think about how broad and how open this is, and the fact that it's not technically part of those 10 blue organic links, it's not a featured snippet, and it can be different every time. How do we track it? And if we can track it, how do we use that information to inform our strategy? That to me is like the biggest question mark, the biggest worry. But do I have any doubts or concerns that that will be figured out over time? No, I know that it will be figured out over time because every change that Google throws at us, tools continue to evolve, resources continue to evolve, and strategies continue to evolve. So, I naturally am a bit of a worrier. So am I worried? Yes. But should we worry? No, not really. I think that it presents more opportunities than anything else.
What are, let's say, 3 books that you would recommend our viewers and listeners?
One book I absolutely love is Grit by Angela Duckworth. I think that is a great book to kind of really understand leadership. Leadership is something that I've explored a lot through books. Another one that is another leadership book, I tend to gravitate towards kind of leadership and business books, is a book called Quiet. It's The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking. And I really enjoyed that book. I kind of identify as an introvert myself. I think a lot of SEO professionals identify as introverts. But that kind of book really helped me explore what it means to kind of use that as more of a power. And I think that I've kind of learned to use my introversion in an extroverted way, especially now that I manage a team of like 20 people. So it definitely can kind of be a little against my introverted nature. Another book that I really love is Radical Candor. Let me see. It's a book by Kim Scott. It's all about how to get what you want by really saying what you mean. And it's another like kind of business book all about, providing feedback integrating that into your day-to-day and how you can kind of help be part of change at the business that you're at. For me, it kind of really reframed what I expect out of my team, what I expect out of myself, as well as really helped me, I feel like, improve um, the feedback that I give to my team, both in praise and kind of in critiques and feedback as well. So those were kind of 3 books that I'd really recommend, all kind of like leadership focused, but that's probably where I do my most reading and kind of professional development book wise.
So, podcast wise, are there, let's say, 3 podcasts that you would recommend our viewers and listeners?
Sure. I definitely tune into like the Search Engine Journal show. I think that one is great. Search Engine Journal in general is an awesome resource for people. Another one that I love to listen to is Last Week in Local. That's one that, because it is, so locally focused, and it's hosted by some folks that are really focused in Google Business Profile. I feel like it really helps me stay up to date on changes, things that are evolving, and things that I might not day to day see because of the types of businesses that I work with versus, things that they're seeing. And then, of course, SEO On-Air, another great SEO podcast to always be tuning into. This one's a great one, so really recommend it.
Thank you so much, Rachel, for the chat. It's been very enlightening. I hope we can talk about more of the stuff that we already did in another call and get into more details about it whenever you're free. But for now, this has been really great, and I hope we can catch up again.
Thank you so much, Aaron. It's been great.
Thanks for watching that episode. I hope you enjoyed. For more videos like this, make sure you like and subscribe.